Hi everyone. This is Loretta Faveri and hi Akshata. I'm just typing in my handle for everyone in case you want to follow me. E-R-I. So, welcome everyone to my studio. Can you see it all fine? And can you hear me? So my experience with Arts Etobicoke started several years ago when, started several years ago as a volunteer, and I still volunteer at Arts Etobicoke. I volunteer with the kids at the after school program on Wednesdays and Thursdays, which I absolutely love. And I also spent some time, a couple of years, on the board of directors. And I'm also currently on the gallery committee with Akshata, Moira Ness, and Claudia. And yeah, so this is my studio behind me. And I can show you around a little bit or answer some questions, tell you a little bit more about myself. I guess one of the things I was asked to tell you about is something that you may not know about me. I guess I could tell you that I used to be a professional belly dancer for many years, about 20 years, and belonged to the Arabesque Dance Company. Performed in Greece and in Syria and Beirut, which was awesome time in my life. And I've always practiced art in various forms, mainly textiles. And I went to OCAD and studied textiles there. And now I was doing some wearable electronics when I graduated, and I got a grant from the federal government to do research into that. And I did that for a number of years, and then I went back to my traditional craft practice, which is what I'm doing right now. I will just take you around my studio a little bit and show you around. I'm just going to turn, turn the camera around. There we go. Yeah, okay. So this is I call it my dry studio. I have all these, behind these curtains that I put up, is all these shelves with materials and things. I have some drawers here that my dad built me, which I store, stuff in. I have to tell you, this is the neatest my studio has been in a long time. And this is what I'm currently working on now. I just finished this piece. It's not completely mounted yet, but it is a paper tapestry. And these are prints, monotype prints that have been cut and stitched together to create this tapestry. And this is what I'm working on now. And this is related to the coronavirus. So I've asked people, friends, neighbors, people on Instagram to send me words and phrases that describe how they're feeling about what's going on right now with isolation, social distancing. And so this piece of Japanese paper, after I've put all these thoughts on it, thoughts and words, will then be cut up and stitched together like this other tapestry here. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Thanks, Akshata. I can take you downstairs to my wet studio where I ink things up. Oh, elaborate on the process. Okay, so I guess it starts right now. What I'm working on right now starts with this written work here. And sometimes it starts with dancing and writing. In this case, I'm using other people's words, and we'll add some of my own words to this piece of Japanese paper. Then I take it to my wet studio where I ink it up and do mono prints, and I'll use stencils to lay on top, something like this, which started from a drawing like this, just a doodle that was inspired by dance, my own dance movement, and then I digitally turn it into this Duralar stencil. And then I'm going to take you down to my wet studio now and show you the rest of the process. So that studio was above my garage, and now we're gonna go to the basement where there's a kitchen that was here in the house when we bought it. And this is what used to be my dye kitchen when I was working with textiles. But now that I'm working with paper, it's where I keep all my inks, and I use wax. This is my hot plate with beeswax that I use to apply to a sheet of paper. This is paper that has been I've been written on. These are all my thoughts, and these are thoughts about I'm going to say me trying to dispel bad thoughts from my past and to think positively and show gratitude. So this is all of that. And my next step will be to apply wax and some of these stencils, apply ink, and what will happen is some of the words will be revealed, but a lot of it will be covered up. So you're going to, basically I want the viewer to put themselves into these words. You don't want to see, I don't want to spill my whole guts to the world, but I want to show you little bits and maybe bits that you may relate to. So after everything's inked up, these are my inks over here. This is what I use as my palette. These are my brushes. These are mainly stencil brushes that I use. I also use forks to scratch into the wax and apply more ink. And then I use my trusty iron, which I couldn't live without because that's what I use to remove the wax. So after this has been inked up and waxed, then I put a piece of brown paper on top, like so, and I iron the piece, apply heat, which the wax is then absorbed into the paper, and then I'm left with my inked up piece, which would look a lot like that tapestry that you saw upstairs. And then I will cut it up, and that could be done in many different ways. I might tear it. I might use my my guillotine to cut the paper, or I might fold up the paper and cut it like you do for snowflakes. And it's all stitched together. And I can show you some samples of that upstairs. Do you have any questions about my wet studio? No? Okay, I'm going upstairs. What do I use to write on the fabric so clearly? I'm actually using Japanese paper that I'm writing on. And right now I'm just using regular ink from a ballpoint pen, but I also have these gel pens that I really like too, because the ink flows really nicely. And they come in some great colors. And I also like this kind of ink too, because when I apply the wax and ink and then iron the piece, the ink holds. Even if I apply water, which I often do as well, it doesn't run. Sometimes I'll use a marker and that does bleed, and that kind of creates a neat effect. So here are some pieces that I've printed with this Duralar stencil, and then I've cut it up into pieces that I can create sort of collage together and then stitch together. And here are some, this is a piece that I did quite a while ago that I really did not like. And I still kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. But the more I look at it after time goes by, the more I like it. So that is going to turn into something at some point. It'll be stitched together and then mounted and framed kind of like this piece here. I don't know if you can see that because of the glare. And yeah. Why did I start using Japanese paper? So during a show I was doing at Cabbagetown, there was a woman who told me that using Japanese paper is much more versatile, that you could use it in many different ways. It's very strong. So I went to the Japanese paper place and spoke to a rep there who advised me on the best papers to use. So right now I'm using predominantly Kozuke, which is not a very expensive paper, but I find it really, really versatile. I can soak it in water and it won't tear. I can apply ink, paint, so many things to the paper. I can really be rough with it and it still holds up really well. And of course I'm stitching through it as well, as you can see here. And it just creates such a beautiful effect. And also when you apply the wax, it makes the paper translucent. So when you layer it, you can see what's behind it. And I don't know if you can really tell through here, but you can see the layering of the paper, which creates a really nice effect. Have you ever experimented with combining your craft practice and your wearable art practice? Oh, well, wearables are something I've kind of, how should I say it? Creating wearables really challenges me in ways that frustrates me and makes me unhappy. I don't know, but I have the ideas and I have a vision of what I want to do, but then actually making it, I get so frustrated that I just don't want to do it. It doesn't make me happy. So I'm not really doing the wearables anymore. How challenging is it for you to decide on how to frame or what frame to use? Well, I'm trying to get away from framing. That's why I'm using I'm working now predominantly with these paper tapestries. But the framing challenges are really how to get the viewer to see the artwork and engage with the artwork without the glass becoming a barrier. And I haven't really figured out how to do that yet. And I know, Akshata, we've talked a lot about this, and I still want to find out your ideas about using acrylic, because I think that could be a way of getting around some of my obstacles with framing. Yeah, so still exploring that. I'm actually currently having challenges with mounting these tapestries, and I'm exploring different ways of mounting it. So right now I've got these flush mount hardware so that I can hang the piece. See now? Yeah, there. So I can hang it without having a string on top that you can see. I want it to look nice and clean. And this one here, I haven't mounted it yet. I need the help of my dad, but he's 85 years old and I can't, with all the social distancing, I can't really get him to help me on this yet. But right now it's being held up with this, sticky stuff, which is really cool because the paper is so light, it just floats. But I want it to hang away from the wall so that you can see all these really amazing shadows that the paper casts. Yeah, what else can I tell you? Any other questions? This is another one of my tapestries. And you can see a bit of the shadow here. There, I think that's really cool. Oh, you love it without the frames. Yeah, me too. Hi, Monica. Hi, Shiva. Hi, Janet. The last piece, it could be backlit too. I don't know. I've never tried backlighting it. That's something I could try. Yeah, I don't know what that would do. What else? Oh, I can show you some of these pieces which are framed, where the print has the stencil hovering above it. So for example, I'm going to show you this. This is the print, which is based on that doodle there in my sketchbook. And then I created the Duralar stencil, which is a bit inked up right now. But once it's printed, it can hover on top and it creates a really, really cool 3D effect. And I don't know if you can really see it very well here. There, this is part of the problem with framing. There, that you can kind of see that, pretty cool. Yeah. So the Duralar stencil hovers over top of the print using straight pins. So I mount the paper onto foam board, which allows me to stick the pins in. So how do you decide the color palette? It is very interesting. Oh, wow. I'm glad you think so, because I struggle with color a lot. As you can see, black and white is sort of my go-to, black, white, and a bit of red, because I find it easy. But I'm trying to challenge myself with color. And in one of the Arts Etobicoke classes, we were doing some painting, and I did this little painting, and I loved the colors. So this is my inspiration now for the work that I'm making now. So when I do my show in Newfoundland, this will be the predominant color palette that I'll be using, as well as black and white. Oh, good. I'm glad you could see the 3D effect. How do you cut the pieces out in such detail? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I don't cut them out by hand. I used to, but now I use the Cricut Maker, which is, I don't have it set up here. I have it hiding down here. This thing here is my Cricut Maker. And what I do is, once I've done my drawing, I take a picture of it and I create a vector image, send it to the Cricut Maker digitally, and it cuts it out. It has a little X-Acto knife blade, and it can do quite detailed pieces. And I can tell you, really, my pieces aren't as detailed as some people's cuts. So yeah, it's a really great tool. I absolutely love it. Any other questions? I'll just go back to some of the questions that Akshata sent me that I could tell you about. Oh, what do I do in my spare time when I'm not creating art? Well, Monica, who's on here right now, I've been knitting with her and several other women in my neighborhood, which has been really, really fun. I can't wait to start doing it again. We're currently knitting squares to stitch together to make blankets for people in palliative care. What's the next upcoming project show that you have? Well, I applied for the Toronto Outdoor Art Fair, but I don't know whether I got into that, and it actually has been canceled. So, yes, sorry, there was a little pause there. The next show that I'll be doing this summer will be Cabbage Town, which has not been canceled, which is great. So that will be, I believe, September, the weekend. It's the second weekend in September. I'm not sure what the date is. And then after that, I have a solo show at the Craft Council of Newfoundland in October 2021. So I have lots of time to prepare, and I will be featuring some of these paper tapestries. And oh yeah, also upcoming is the Forgiveness Project, which I am partnering with St. Joseph's Health Center to bring art and mindfulness to people in recovery from addiction. And that's been postponed. That was supposed to happen this month, but it's going to happen in September, hopefully, if all goes well. Thanks, Akshata. What else can I tell you? What is the most meaningful art experience that I've had? Well, I'm just going to turn this around. The most meaningful art experience that I have had was not that long ago, maybe last year. And I am in a recovery program at St. Joe's, and my addiction counselor asked me to do a workshop with my fellow people in the recovery program. So the workshop was about overcoming shame, or tearing through shame, and healing and forgiving yourself. So I presented my workshop and it went over very well. And what was really amazing to me was how many people in this group didn't allow themselves to be creative, or felt that just drawing or doodling without judgment was an experience they'd never had before. So that was very meaningful for me, and I sometimes take for granted my own creativity because I just can't stop. But some people don't even have the permission, or they don't give themselves permission to do that. So yeah, I'm hoping to change that as time goes on. Any questions? Hi, Dana. Why do you think community arts are important? Well, I just, because I just got this grant from Ontario Arts Council to bring arts to the recovery community, in my own experience with people in recovery, I realize how important community art is. It's making art accessible to people who wouldn't normally have the opportunity to express themselves through art. So I think what Arts Etobicoke is doing is fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about the grant as well. So another one of the questions here is, what is the go-to meal you make for guests? Well, hello. My son is a vegetarian, so when he eats with us, and when we have guests over where he is eating with us, then my go-to vegetarian meal changes all the time. The last meal I made that went really, really well, and I'll be using it again, is a curry tofu tortilla, which I thought turned out really well, especially since I improvised on the recipe. My studio is very clean and organized. Thank you, Shiva. It's not normally like that. It's usually absolute chaos, an absolute mess. But I just couldn't show it to you that way, so I did a major clean, and I'm actually quite happy that I did that, because it feels good. Feels good to start fresh. Oh yeah, so my go-to meal when there aren't vegetarians around is a roast chicken with roast potatoes and maybe a green, like what's it? I can't think of it. Oh, anyway, a green and yeah, yummy roast chicken. So another question, because I think I answered all the questions that Akshata gave me. All right, well, I don't know what else I can show you, so I guess I will bring this to a close, and I'm so happy that you all joined me, and and coming to see my studio. This was really cool. And thank you, Arts Etobicoke, for allowing me to do this. Did I miss the dance therapy part? Oh, I didn't talk about that, right? So yeah, I haven't been doing it since COVID-19. I don't know what's happening with me, but I haven't felt like dancing. But normally dancing I use as therapy, as a sort of another way of meditating. And I was dancing every day for about 8 minutes and posting it on Instagram. But yeah, I don't know, something's going on with me right now. I don't know, maybe it's just all the craziness of the world right now, and I just haven't felt like dancing. But I will again. I know I will, because dancing for me is like breathing. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed the tour and my process. All right, so thank you all. I'm going to sign off now. Bye.